Hello, hello, hello. I want to believe that we are live. The music is a little bit softer. Welcome to today's live design streaming session. My name is Verma Henry. I am the founder of DoBetterUX.com, a place where we are really trying to create a no BS approach when it comes to teaching people about UX design and really helping you get your career from zero to, sort of like industry standard into a place where people can take you pretty seriously, starting from a very no UX background. So that is what we're trying to do with Do Better UX. If you're interested in some of our other material, we've got a podcast going, we've got a weekly newsletter that we send out. Check out our website, dobetterux.com. That's where you can find obviously all of the stuff that we're doing and just be able to keep track of everything that we are up to. So thank you for joining us. I see that there are some people who are watching us. You're gonna see me looking down into the monitors and everything. One man band today. I'm really just monitoring everything and making sure that everything is sailing smooth. The connection is there. It looks like we are pretty cool. Please let me know in the chat if you're joining us, if you can hear me well, if you can see me well, and yeah, introduce yourself, where you're from, where you're watching from today. This is part 3 of a design streaming series that we've been doing, which is basically getting started in UX design. We've been trying to do a 4-part series that basically covers specific things around that not only give you the basic stuff that you get taught online, like you should get a portfolio and put all the fake stuff in it, but also just to really get into the grips of what can take you from being no UX designer to being sort of like somebody who can get into the market with enough effect and respect, right? So that is what we're trying to do with this series. We're going to add a link in the description below if you want to see the other videos that we've done, the other 2 parts that we've done. This is part 3, and today we'll be talking about UX design tools and the skills that you need to really stand out as a UX designer, not only become a UX designer and sort of like the things you need to know to become a UX designer, but the point here is to really help you stand out from the overflooded market really of UX designers that we are seeing today. So it's going to be a 3-part sort of like a conversation that I'm going to be talking through. It's mainly going to be me talking through the different skill sets. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some soft skills. I'm going to get to some what I call technical skills, and I'm going to go into a little bit of tools, actual tools that can help you get the job done, or at least that you're expected to have experience in when you are doing UX design. As we are going through this, please do let me know in the comment section or in the chat if you're watching this after the show. Obviously it will be in the comment section which part interests you the most and which part would you like us to expand. Would you like to know more about the tools? Would you like to know more about the skills that we're going to be talking about today, etc., because today the point is to really go through them at a very high level, but to sort of like help you create a checklist, if you may, that can help you sort of like tick off the things that you need to know if you're getting started in UX design. And even if you are a UX designer already, some of the things that I hear might really help you stand out, because I understand that some of them might not necessarily be things that UX designers today pursue and do on a day-to-day basis. They might be a little bit difficult to do in some situations, in some cases, but yeah, I'm gonna jump into that. So not wasting any further time, let me take a sip of my coffee and we jump right into it. So, as I said, it will be a 3-part series. So I want to start with what I call soft skills. These are sort of like the not so technical skills. It's human skills, really. It's skills you need to have as an individual, if you're getting into UX design. And this is just some of the basic things, really. So the first one that I'm going to talk about, which I think is really important, is the basic understanding of the design thinking process, right? So what is the design thinking process? Let's see if we can get some examples here. So a basic understanding of the design thinking process and knowing how to apply it is very important. So what I've seen with a lot of people who are getting into UX design, they get to sort of like see the picture of the design thinking process. There's this whole thing and the notion around, trying to apply it in a very linear way, and not being able to actually follow it. So there's this empathize phase, this design phase, this ideate and prototype and test phase. I think these are all components that you would find in any design sort of like project, right? Whether you're designing a website or an app or any sort of like design project that you might be on. These are some of the things that you would find, but they don't necessarily come within this pack of order. And again, there's an umbrella kind of steps and things that are here, right? There are buckets of things that happen in each part of the steps. So like in empathize, there's like different empathy mapping processes. There's sort of like interviewing and immersing yourself in the customer's type of world. There's the definition phase, which could be brainstorming workshops, which could be design sprint, discovery type of workshops. There's ideate, which has got a whole different sort of like different methods that people practice and do in different companies from time to time. So having said that, I think it's still a very important thing for you to be able to have a basic understanding of what the design thinking process is, sort of like the main stages that are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sort of like the main 6 stages that are there, how you can flavor them and really adopt them to make them yourself. You need to research some of the things that people do in the empathize and the define, ideate, prototyping phase and test phase. Of course, we're going to talk about some of the stuff here, especially when it comes to prototyping and testing, and sort of like on a high level. But I think it's important for you to understand that this is not a linear process, and this is something that you'll be using sort of like bits and pieces of it. So you're not always going to start at a defined phase if you're working on a project that is already there, right? You're not going to go through a prototype phase if you're working on a project that's already there. You might go through a test phase, and sort of like a prototype and test before you go into development without really coming up with new ideas, but sort of like optimizing whatever is there already. So that is the first point that I really wanted to cover around, the soft skills. I think understanding the design thinking process is really important for anybody getting into UX design. The second part is that, it's not a linear process really, and you shouldn't look at it as a linear process. Otherwise, it's something that hurts a lot of designers that I see, especially junior designers. They're like, no, but we didn't do the user research, where's the empathy phase, where's the define phase, etc., etc. People really find it hard to not apply the linear process. I know a lot of people know that it is not a linear process, but I actually see that there's a lot of struggle when it comes to people trying to apply this, and it always being looked at as a linear process. It's not a linear process, guys. It's bits and pieces and buckets of work that has put into a process. I guess maybe the term process sort of throws off people a bit, because people then think that is something that they have to do step by step, because that is what you typically call a process, right? Point number two, if you have any further questions on any of the things that we're talking about here and you'd like to learn more about it, ask me questions directly and not only wait for the live streaming sessions. We do have a group. We have a design community called the Do Better UX group. You can find it on LinkedIn. That's the only place we are. Join us there. Feel free to throw your questions and ask us, typical, ways on how to apply UX design and, some of the stuff that you are facing on a day-to-day basis within the work that you do. So moving forward to the second soft skill that I have is that, as UX designers, you will find yourself working in what we call agile environments. Now, agile is a framework, is a delivery framework. It's a software delivery framework, rather, and it's something that I don't know if I can find something to show you on the internet here. So agile is a delivery method that a lot of corporates and companies are using in South Africa today. And if you're a UX designer in any part of the world, I mean, even some of the biggest tech companies are using it out there. It's something that has been used and proven and tested to sort of like work for a lot of times, right? So it's a framework that a lot of companies are adopting as much as they are adopting UX design and design thinking and, customer-centric design, etc. I think knowing how to work in an agile environment is very important, right? So I'm just trying to find an image here that might make this look a little bit so that I can, sort of like show you what it is. But basically, it's a form of delivery. Let me do this one. It's a form of delivering software, and it's mainly used by engineering companies, really. So here's an example of how a typical agile, process would look like. Get requirements, design, develop, testing, development, development of, refinements. Basically, that should be called refinements, and review, and you sort of like push the feature or the product into the market. The reason why I'm talking about agile in a UX design conversation is that I think it's something that is really important for people to learn and understand, because this is something that you're going to be encountered in. And one of the biggest problems that I've seen UX designers face is that not knowing what agile is, not knowing what Kanban and Scrum and working in these 2-week sprints or scaled agile, whichever type of flavor of agile that the company you're working for is in, sort of like gives you a harder time to be able to translate the UX conversation between stakeholders and getting into even translating that to the developers as well, right? So there's all these things, this whole jargon and language that you have to get used to, and you won't find the scenario where there is this whole design phase where you can go in and do your empathy and all of that stuff. You need to find a rhythm and how to incorporate it in there somehow. So I've had some good results with running design sprints within 2-week agile environments, but I've also found great results in just being able to navigate where we do the research, how we do the research. Do we do it before, after we take the product out, sort of like not following the typical design thinking process form, but being able to take the different parts of that process and be able to use them where it's needed within the agile process, whether you are within a sprint and you're doing the planning, you're doing the designing, really being able to engage with stakeholders and finding the right information. It's kind of different in an agile environment opposed to let's say a startup environment, or what we would call a waterfall environment, which is mainly an environment where you would find you have 3 months of design and discovery, you have another 3 months of getting requirements and whatever it is, and then another 8 months or 12 months of delivery. So agile sort of like works in this short bursts of 2-week sprints. Usually there's also other forms of agile, like scaled agile, etc., which takes a little bit longer. But I think understanding the agile process is really important for somebody who's getting into UX design, because you are going to come across it one way or the other, and you want to be, when you are in that situation, you are able to speak the conversation, you are able to add value, exactly what's playing and what's cooking and what's going on. So yeah, learn more about agile. Again, if you'd like me to expand on any of these topics that I'm talking about today, please do let me know in the comment section, in the chat section, or over at our UX design group on LinkedIn. If you look up Do Better UX, you should be able to find our group there. Seem to have a little bit of an irritated throat today. I'm not sure why. But anyway, moving on swiftly, again, still on the soft skills side, the next thing that I want to talk about is communication skills, right? I think communication skills are some of, the biggest things that are overlooked. And when I say communication skills, I don't mean just, communicating with the people that you're working, being able to tell your boss what's happening. I think there is a certain style of communication that can help you manage meetings, be able to be present for people to really listen to what you're saying, and be able to, present your work with enough courage and form, and, understanding the context and the people that you're speaking with is also very important, right? Like, we have a lot of UX designers who are trying to evangelize UX design in boardrooms, speaking to executives who are really worried about the numbers, because that is what their job is, right? We worry about the human beings and the people and the product, etc. Most executives are worrying about the profit, the numbers, etc. So you can't have the same conversation that you'll be having if you are talking about the impact. They want to know what the impact on the bottom line is. How much are they going to make? How much are they going to save? How much are they losing right now, and what you can save them? What value do you bring to their bottom line, and be able to sort of like help the business to be more profitable? I mean, at the end of the day, they are hiring you to solve a problem that is probably stopping them from being profitable in one way or another. So communication is a really big soft skill that a lot of people overlook. I think being able to facilitate conversations, whether it's running meetings very well, presenting is another thing that a lot of people overlook. Getting into UX design, all of the findings and the things that you're doing need to be presented in one form or another, and you are going to be put in situations where you are going to be presented to a board of executives, or even just other designers and developers, for them to be able to understand where you're coming from with some of the results or the metrics, or just the design approach that you're trying to go with in the project. Again, it's not evangelizing UX, it's just being able to communicate fluently and being able to make the impact as needed. So moving on swiftly from the communication and sort of like presentation skills, I think another thing that you need to prepare yourself if you're getting into UX design is interviewing skills, right? And when I say interviewing skills, a lot of people think automatically that I'm talking about usability testing and interviewing customers, but I think there's also another component that is overlooked, which is really interviewing internal stakeholders, being able to get different information from them, being able to interview the people working a call center for you to be able to get certain data from there that can help you that can influence your design decisions within your product, right? So there's all those different aspects of I think it falls, a little bit overlap from the communication type of, conversation. But I think, being able to interview internal stakeholders, being able to interview customers is a very important skill. Knowing what questions to ask and how to approach, certain questions, especially when you're doing interviews internally. You don't want to sound like, you're sort of like, asking questions like people don't know what they're doing, but rather for you to really get insights on that insights that can help you with the design decisions that you have. Cool. So interviewing and sort of like usability testing, skills are very important if you're getting into UX design, because you're going to be looking for information from people half of the time, right? It's either you're talking to stakeholders or you're talking to customers. That is your job as a UX designer, to be able to bring those two conversations together and be able to use the information and the insights that you get in there to influence your design decisions. So I want to move on a little bit faster here, because I see that we're 24 minutes into the thing and I'm still on the first section of this conversation, but I'm almost done with the first section. Moving on to the last point that we have on the first section, but definitely not least. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can look out to. These are some of the things that I've looked at, seen a lot of UX designers struggle with, as I've been telling you some of the scenarios that I've been seeing designers struggling with in the industry. So the last one that I want to cover here, which I think is some of the really main important one, is really having an attention to detail and a curious eye. So what does that mean? Attention to detail, obviously be able to look things through, make sure that they're in the right place, and you have proper grammar and text and all of that stuff. But when I talk about the curious eye, I mean, like, I always look at things in a way like, could we have done this better? Could we have done it in a different way? Is there a way that we can simplify it? Is there a way that we can do this better, right? So a curious eye is always asking, how can I do this better? Even after you have delivered a product, right? And everything, you've looked at the detail that's there, everything is looking crisp and clean. There's always that thing that you should always have, right, as a designer, is that, how can we do this better? How can we improve this? How can we simplify this? Most of it will come out of your customers' feedback, but I think most of it is also really part of your curiosity in the process, and looking at things with different perspectives all the time, challenging your perspectives and really welcoming other people's perspectives to challenge your perspectives, right? I think that is something that is important for UX designers to be able to consider. Cool. So moving on swiftly, I'm gonna go in a little bit here. Into the technical skills. Again, this is not a comprehensive list of skills, that that I would have, but I think it's just some of the high level highlights of what I feel like it's important for people getting into, the UX design career. Even if you are a UX designer and some of these things you don't necessarily practice them, I think it's some of the things that will really help you stand out and be able to be a better designer, bring more value to the people that you serve. When it comes to technical skills, the first one is not going to be by any means a surprise to anyone watching this. It's prototyping and mocking up skills. I think there's a simple skill that a lot of designers are expected to do. This is the only way really that we can put the ideas that we have, since a lot of UX designers or product designers in this case are working on some sort of a digital product. This is the only way that you can put what is in your head onto something that is visual, people can look at, and if it's a prototype they can use and test out and see how it works, right? I think these are very important skills that every UX designer is expected to have, and there's tons and tons of material out there around prototyping and mocking up and doing sort of like wireframes, those type of things. I think prototyping, mock-ups, wireframes, it needs to be something that you need to create your own style around how you can do them effectively, how you can translate what is in your head onto paper. I personally like using, I see that I don't have my diary here, but I like using dotted paper sheets, right? Because they help me. Let me see if I can fetch one actually. I like using dotted paper sheets. I don't know if it will focus there, but basically this helps me draw screens and things like that easier. It really helps me be able to translate what is in my head quickly onto notebook paper, and then I usually take that and put it in some sort of digital tool, whether that is mainly Figma 90% of the time, unless if I'm working on some other project that requires me to use any other tool, of which we're going to talk about tools in a minute or so. So prototyping skills, mocking up, being able to sketch and wireframe your ideas onto paper, into digital format is really, really, really important, and something that I would make sure that I have on my list if I was somebody who's getting into UX design. So moving on swiftly, let me just move. Get back in my position here. So the next skill is usually something that a lot of people who are getting into UX design struggle with. I struggle with it myself, and that is writing. When it comes to writing, I think writing is a really critical part of user experience design. Some people call it UX writing. I think just being able to be a decent writer and be able to write proper lines and not just have goop in your designs, right? Being able to work on a design and an interface end to end, be able to understand what you're trying to tell the user at a certain part of the interface. I think that is very important to me, because you really become this one person to go to for the design part, right? Developers don't write stuff. Executives are not going to pass on any written material to you, and usually we see a lot of UX designers just throw in placeholder text in there, and not thinking that text through. I think, being able to write, being able to do UX writing, whichever way you want to call it, even if it's not super good, right? But it's better than putting, text holder, placeholder text in there. It's way better than, just having placeholder text, because I think reading and what the message of what the interface actually tells you, it's a huge part of the experience, right? It's really a big part of the experience, that we cannot ignore it and just look at the statics and the steps, trying to make less clicks and other things like that. So writing is a very big one, and I think a lot of designers struggle with it, because it's something that they do not put an effort into actually having as a skill set. But I think it's one of those things that will really help you stand out, because not a lot of people are doing it out there. And if you're somebody who's already interested in writing, I think it's something that you should really bring into the party. Put it in your CV and your portfolio that you're really good at writing. That will really help you stand out getting into UX design. And even if you are a UX designer, I'm sure that there are a lot of people always looking for better written design work, etc., etc. The next 2 points that I have here, sort of different. The next one is UI design. So this is user interface design. It sort of like overlaps from the prototyping and the mocking up a little bit, but it is very sort of like graphic design oriented. I come from a graphic design background myself, and I think there's a lot of work and thinking and methodology that goes into graphic design, that not everybody, just like writing, right, can get it right. But I think this is something that you need to be able to be able to understand what UI design is, be able to understand the mechanics and the things that the conversation, again, just like what I was saying with learning the agile process. When it comes to UI design, there's certain language that we speak there, like components, right? What are components? What does it what does that mean? Like, what is a design library? What is a design system? Things like that. So it's things that really help us be able to work with other designers better, even if you're not a great UI designer, but just really being able to understand the concepts and the workings of UI design, and what is actually happening, what is needed, and how do you work around it. It's important for anybody who's getting into, even if you're planning to be a UX researcher, or just be a UX writer, or be a UX analyst, or whatever it is, sort of like specialize in a very small niche of UX. I think understanding the workings of UI design will help you have those conversations better with other designers and developers, just like how understanding the workings of the agile process will help you have better conversations with stakeholders, developers, and other designers that are already working in those environments. And the last one under technical skills is analytics. I think there's a lot of sort of like qualitative research. So the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research is that qualitative research is more of the user testing stuff, that we usually really see being, brought to the surface when it comes to UX design, which I think really helps and is a big part of UX design. And it's a really big part of understanding the user needs and what we are designing for and solving the problem in a better way. But I think analytics, once the product it has been built, or even if you're just doing market research and you're looking at how people use other products, how people interact with other services and things based around the idea and the concept that you have, can really help you be able to shape a better picture and a better what can I say, product, putting the two together, the, sort of like quantitative analytics, whether that is from, traffic data or from, website traffic data or app traffic data, or that is, sort of like how people are using other services and things that, are close to your solution. Just analytics is a big part that is not voiced enough in UX. There's a lot of the qualitative stuff, the empathy mapping, the interviewing and stuff like that, but I think the analytics is a very crucial part, and again is something that will just help you stand out from most UX designers, because a lot of UX designers who have the traditional sort of like UX design education that you'd find copied and pasted everywhere online, don't talk about analytics as a big part of UX design, or as a big part of the design thinking process. So that is my last on the technical skills. If you're just joining us on the stream, I see there are other numbers on the people that are watching here. Please feel free to say hi in the chat section. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you have any questions so far, please feel free to throw them in the chat section as well. So next up, I'm gonna go through sort of like the tools, and when I talk about tools here, I'm gonna talk about mainly software, but I think when it comes to UX design tools, we should look at them as there's sort of like technical tools, like the software that we actually use to, run virtual workshops, do video calls and things like that. And there's also, tools like, design thinking methodologies, processes and things like that, that can also help us, achieve our job. But today I'm going to be talking about more of the software type of stuff. I think I want to make a little bit more of a focused stream, which will be focusing mainly on the sort of like soft tools. I don't know how to put it, sort of like the methodology type of stuff, because I want to go into detail of some of the processes and the methodologies that I've used and found sort of like effect in my own career. So things like knowing the agile process, things like the design sprint, etc., are some of the things that I want to go into a little bit more detail in, but not in this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about sort of like the tools that you need to learn. So kind of like the software that you're probably going to encounter, and the typical use cases of each software that you are going to typically encounter on any given scenario of a UX design project. So the first one is some sort of design tool, right? Something that you can actually use to design your prototypes, your mock-ups, etc. in, even if you're doing some of the UI work yourself, you need some sort of tool, and the industry standards up to this day has been Sketch and Figma, I think I started using Sketch and with a combination of InVision, but it was really clumsy and clunky and everything. It was better than trying to do anything in Adobe Photoshop, trying to build any sort of like design user interfaces in Adobe Photoshop, right? So I'm just gonna go into present mode. So this is Sketch. It's available for Mac only, and it's a paid tool. A lot of companies are still using it purely because they have had big corporate licenses and things like that, but this is one of the main industry tool, sort of like industry standards tools for designing and having sort of like layout designs and prototyping and things like that, right? And help you collaborate with other designers, etc. They've put different you can put in different plugins that can help you sort of like collaborate and do other things as well. But moving over to what I would recommend for you to focus your energy and time in, which really works close to what Sketch does, but I would say way better when it comes to collaborating and how everything is done here in Figma. So as you can see here, again, it's a design, an interface design tool, but they've really made great features around being able to collaborate. As you can see there, the people commenting, etc. You can see live what everyone is doing. And the great part about Figma is that it's mainly free. So if you're starting out as a designer, maybe you're a freelance designer, or just want to play around with a tool, you can get Figma for free, be able to play around with it. There's a plethora of resources online that you can get when it comes to Figma. If you go here in the community section, there's like thousands and thousands of files and templates that you can use. There's plugins for you to be able to do different things within Figma. It's a really great tool that you can sort of like get going with right away like that. So when it comes to a design tool, I would say Sketch is an industry standard that is dying. Figma is more of what is the new kid on the block that is taking over. I would invest more of my time in, but whichever tool that you learn, they are very similar when it comes to things like the language that is used there, things like components, things like libraries, etc. So there's a lot of similarities between the two softwares. Again, Figma is available online. You can use it online, or you can have the client for any platform, whether it's Windows or PC. I've been even playing around with it on my iPad as well, just trying to see how it works, and living that hashtag iPad only lifestyle is something that I'm pursuing in 2021. If I can get Figma to work, if I can get Figma to work and I can stream on the thing, then I can do everything on my iPad, which will be something that I'm gunning for, which is something that is a really interesting proposition for me. Those are the two main tools. I know there's other design tools out there like Adobe XD. You'll probably see it, but Adobe in this space, it's a really good tool. I don't want to say that it's not, but you'll probably not find a lot of frequency of people using it. If it's something that is being used in your organization, that is something that you might want to learn, which is very specific. But I would go with a Figma on any given day. And yeah, again, there's other things like Flutter and other sort of like prototyping tools, but I think Figma and Sketch are the main ones that I would focus on if I was getting into UX design. And if I am already a UX designer who is using Sketch and I haven't started using Figma yet, might want to jump on that bandwagon right away. So the next one is some sort of project management tool. Again, if you're working in a corporate, you will probably find some of the main industry standards that you'll find here, which is software called Jira, right? And it's usually accompanied by its other evil cousin called Confluence. But I'm just gonna go here and show you. Basically, this is again used in very agile type of processes and methodologies. As you can see here, there's what they would call a Kanban board, where you are having all these to-do items and moving them across, and you have the person who's assigned there. Each one of these things is called a story, etc. And then you can go and see the different release cycles that you have, when you are releasing certain features. You can do different workflows, etc. It's a great tool for project management, and it's something that you'll probably come across in one form or another when you are getting into any form of product design. Other than that, there are other ones that you would find, like Airtable, which is a very recent one that we use with the team that I work with internally. Or you would find things like Asana or other sort of like project management tools. Some people are even starting to use things like Monday.com, etc. But you need to be able to verse yourself around some sort of the project tools that are relating to you in the specific market that you're working in. Here over the South African market, I've seen a lot of big corporates using Jira. I think that is almost the industry standard for a lot of companies out there as well. So yeah, check Jira out, Airtable out, Confluence out, and any other sort of like industry leading project management tools. I would check Airtable out. I would check Jira. I'll check out Confluence and maybe Asana for some of the smaller companies. I've seen a lot of adoption of Asana in some of the smaller companies as well. Obviously, you will need some sort of video conferencing software depending on what you're doing. I think living in this COVID world, as much as we are getting vaccines and things like that, I think also for remote UX design, doing UX design, with clients that are abroad, etc. Doing user research with customers that are in different parts of the world than where you are in, you will need some sort of video conferencing tool that you can use. And I've tried a lot in my past that have got different things to them, but one that I've found really useful recently is Whereby. It used to be called Appear In. They changed their branding probably about a year ago now they're called Whereby, and again, the tools that I'm giving you here are pretty much very affordable to use for free, or at a premium, right? Again, you can use Whereby if you're doing interviews with customers, etc. Being able to really having a solid tool that you can go to and be able to have a hassle-free setup, Whereby runs in your browser. You don't need to install anything. It's a little bit better than Zoom in most of the things that they are, and I kind of like just their company culture. Currently Whereby is planting trees for every video call that you make. So yeah, if you want to help the world by planting more trees, join Whereby and let's plant more trees at the time that you're watching this. So yeah, Whereby is a pretty cool video conferencing tool that you can use for free or at a premium, but can really help you get kick-started if you're somebody who's getting started, whether you're freelancing or somebody who is joining a small team that is really trying to find tools to help them get set up and get going. Of course, you might find yourself, with company tools that they already use, things like, Teams or Zoom already. And yeah, you can just, use those tools that are there. Another tool that I missed out here that I think will actually be great to show people, and that has helped me tremendously to sort of like schedule, automate the process of scheduling things like interviews and things like that with customers, is Calendly. So what Calendly does is that it helps you, generate a link where people can basically just go into your calendar and schedule some time. I'm gonna open the one on my website here quickly so that I can show you how it looks like. But basically, I can send one email to 10 or 15 potential customers that I want to interview, and they go on into this thing. They're like, okay, cool, you set the available times that you want, but the cool features that I saw with this is that you can even set up times in between each intervals, so that if somebody sets from 9:30 to 10, for example, right, this is for a 30-minute call, it will actually put a 15 or 10-minute slot after that meeting as well, so that people, if you go overlap, back in the day when we used to travel, you would use that as your travel time to your next meeting, etc., etc. So it's a really good way to automate the scheduling. I mean, you can go back and forth with people saying, oh, what time are you ready? Oh, what time are you ready? Oh, I'm open at this time of the day, whereas if you can just send this link to people, they can pick which date and time works best for you. Obviously you open the slots that's available. So if you're looking to do user interviews between Monday and Wednesday, you only make it available Monday to Wednesday, and then all the other dates will be deactivated, and certain times as well on the different days. So mine, you can see I'm available between 9:30 and etc. But as soon as somebody reserves time there, it gets basically taken away, and you can't see it there anymore. So Calendly is a tool to have in the stack if you are setting up interviews, etc., etc. And the last one that I want to talk about today before we close off the show is Hotjar or Full Story, something that would help you sort of like track and do some of what I would call qualitative analysis. So what Hotjar and Full Story actually do is that by the user's permission, it records a session of how the users are actually interacting with your product, and sort of like record certain sessions, at certain interactions. You get things like heat maps, how many people clicked on certain things. You can see how people are using their mouse pointers, and you can even add sort of like comments and feedback when people interact with certain things, like etc., etc. So these tools really help you deal with some of the things that are happening that the analytics won't necessarily show you. Some of the things that you wouldn't necessarily get in interviews and stuff like that, especially when it comes to heat maps and recordings. Being able to see what your users are actually doing on your website is very important, where they're clicking, how they're interacting with it. You can make decisions if they've abandoned the page after trying to read a certain paragraph, if they were not happy with it. There's certain guesses and guesstimates that you can make out of the insights that you get from products like Hotjar and Full Story. So all the things that I spoke about in this session would sort of like give you a good set of a good level of set of skills that are really industry standard, that you would find in a lot of scenarios as a UX designer out there. Things that you would interact with almost on a day-to-day basis, things that you would need to really focus on and hone your skills on. Obviously, I've spoke about some of the things like, UX writing and communication, and, really having that curious eye, which I believe that are some of the things that can really help you stand out as a UX designer, in the over-flooded market of everybody who's just getting into the role, because there's demand for it. I don't think there's anything wrong, sort of like people over-flooding into the market, but I think for you to be able to stand out, you really need to be able to employ some of the things that I was talking about in this session. So having said that, I'm looking forward to interacting with you further here on YouTube. If you like this type of content, and watched it all to the end, please do consider subscribing so that you don't miss out when we go live. Sometimes we don't necessarily go live with events that we create like on LinkedIn, etc., and sort of like make them the public series events like we've been doing with this part 1 and part 2, part 3, part 4. Sometimes we do ad hoc streams based on things that really excite us that week. Like this week we had a look at we had an ad hoc stream having a look at some of what was the stream about. Oh god, I forgot what the stream was about. Terrible thing about live streaming is that if you're trying to say things that are not on cue, you get caught. Anyway, check out the channel for other content. Subscribe if you really like the content so that you don't miss out on some of the other random stuff that we can't even remember that we do here on the channel. And of course, check out our website, dobetterux.com. It's always updating, giving you the things that we're working on, for you to be able to for us to be able to really give you the resources and the material, for you to start your UX design career and really be able to stand out, learning from what we've learned from experience and doing things and, years and years of trial and error and finding things that really work, not textbook material, but things that really are real life material that we've experimented with and we've seen it work. If you've enjoyed this session, looking forward to seeing you in the next one. My name is Varma Henry again, and cheers. Until the next one, have a great weekend.